911 Systems here with a little overview video of the three current controllers for station alerting or home alerting, and then the improvements that we're making to the home alert 3, which will be called the home alert 4, coming out in January of next year. We'll also touch a little bit on the command alert 3, tone encoder, and tone notification device. So to get started here, we get a lot of questions about, well, what's the difference between the home alert 3, the SA812, and the SA951? So the home alert, or the HA3, the home alert 3, as you can see here, is a very basic unit. It has a place to connect your amplified charger to the back and provide power. There is a home alert 3 Plus, which has an additional port on the side here for hooking up a bed shaker or other 12-volt accessory. Now, with the home alert 3, it does come with a light on the front of it, your choice on which color you would like. So we have red, red and blue, red and white, green, amber, or white. And on the inside of this unit, you will see that the circuitry on this is simply a relay that is activated by the pager. When the pager activates, the relay will activate for the length of time that the amplified charger relay is active, unless you have a Minotaur pager and you have the switch flipped up, which then requires you to press the reset button on the amplified charger base to stop the light from flashing, or the bed shaker if you have the Plus model. And then you have two buttons here. The main button that you would be using would be switch 2 of this particular light. And what this does, when there is power applied to the light, which is when there's an activation, or if you short out pins 2 and 3, you would be able to cycle through your flash patterns on your light using these buttons. So it is fused at 5 amps. The light only pulls about 300 milliamps. But we did that so you could, if you wanted to do your own thing here, you could add additional stuff on the inside or whatnot. So this is our most cost-effective unit, and this is really designed to be a companion to an amplified charger at a house or in a bunk room. And these are really popular. We sell dozens of these a week. So now, to touch on the home alert 3 a little more, this is the board that's inside for the home alert 3. This is what it looks like. It's just a PCB, and you have your DIN connection and a 5 amp relay. It's a Panasonic relay, and this unit, has the fuse holder. So the upgraded model, which will be the home alert 4, looks like this, and you can see it's a little different. Now the footprint's the same. It's the same exact board, size board. Let's see. It's what we did with this is we got a lot of feedback from our users who wanted to have a little more flexibility with the home alert units. So the home alert 4 keeps your power input and your pager connection port the same, but we've added, as you can see here, we've added 2 outputs. So the NO is normally open. It's the normally open side of the relay, but when it closes, that normally open side provides 12 volts output. So that's a 12 volts out and ground on activation. So you have 2 ports to connect devices into. So if you wanted to put 2 lights or a light and something else on the case, you have additional ports, to connect those two. What we've also done is we've added a switch that allows you to engage the relay to provide the power out to your terminals here, and also would provide power out from this terminal and out from this. This is a bed shaker direct connection is what this is designed for. It has an adapter plug because this is a 2.5 millimeter pin, and the bed shaker takes a 2.1, but we did that on purpose so you could hook up heavier duty accessories into using this port if you had other 12 volt accessories you wanted to connect. So with this particular setup, it's really designed for your unication pagers, where you can set your relay length to any amount of time per type of call. So like if you have one tone for fire, you could have that set for this to activate for, say, a minute, versus maybe an EMS tone, which could be set to activate for 10 seconds, or vice versa. However you want to run your box, you can do that. So this would activate, like I said, everything. And then this here is the same as the other one. If you flip it up, you can use this so that you have to press the reset button on your Minotaur amplified chargers, and down would be off, and it's 10-second on your Minotaur and Unication G1s, or it would be active for however long you set the relay in the G2, 3, 4, or 5. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place with this, but this is coming out in January, and it does have the removable plug, very similar to what our SA951 and our SA812. It's actually the same exact plug. The main difference here between your home alerts and like your SA812 and your SA951 is that the home alerts do not have any independent timing capabilities. All the timing is 100% controlled from the pager settings, especially with your Unications G2, 3, 4, and 5. So that's the home alert. Now let's move along to the SA812. So the SA812 comes in two flavors as well. You have the SA812 and then you have the SA812 Plus. I do not have an SA812 Plus handy right this minute, but the SA812 Plus basically just has a light on the front that's hooked in. Two terminal ports that are very similar to these on the inside. And I do have the screws in this, so I won't pull the lid off. But what you get with this is you have a spot to connect your pager. You have a secondary input. All right, so this can be for a button. You can hook a button to this. You could hook 100 buttons to this. And whenever that button was pressed, it could activate the system. What you can also do is you can connect two pagers to this. So you can have pager connected here and another pager connected here. And then you can say, okay, if pager 1 goes off, the main pager goes off, this output would come on for X amount of seconds. If pager 2 went off, then this output would come on for X amount of seconds. Or you can have the pager and the input activate both. It's completely programmable. There's a bunch of dip switches inside that allow you to set different options. There's currently like 12 different settings that you can set it to operate as. And then your timer, your outputs are selectable. They're either 12-volt DC outputs, or it can be a dry contact relay, so you can run your own signal in and have it switched on when there's an alert. And each one of these outputs, K1 and K2, have dip switches that allow you to choose between 1 second and 45 minutes in preset increments. I think it's like 1, 3, 5, 10, 15, 30, 45 seconds, and then the same in minutes. So 1, 3, 5, 10, 15, 30, 45 minutes. So that's how that works. It's pretty straightforward, but it does have its own timer, so you don't have to worry about necessarily if you're using a Minotaur pager. You can still set the bell to go off for 5 seconds or 3 seconds, or you can have a gong set up to strike 3 times or 5 times or 1 time, however you want to set it up. So that's a nice thing about that. This will control your 12-volt gong or any gong that needs a signal wire, like using a dry contact relay. K2 is typically used for like a light output, so you can hook up your LED lights, a beacon, stack lights, whatever the case may be. This is probably our most popular station alert controller right now. We've sold over 100 of these in the last 3 months, and we've had pretty good feedback with it. We are working on an upgraded model that's kind of in between this and this, coming down the road here in 2025. That would be called the SA812, and it will be coming out hopefully by the end of 2025, middle of 2025. So let's move this out of the way, and we're going to go over to the SA951. So this is Big Bertha. This guy here is our biggest alert controller to date, and this unit here is actually a tone decoder, multiple tone decoder, and it's also a it can also be activated with a pager, just like the SA812 or the Home Alert 3. Now, the advantage you have here is that everything is computer programmable. So all your timings, tones, your frequency tolerances for your tone activations, all that is programmable from the computer. So you can actually interface this into a P25, a Harris radio, a Motorola radio. You can interface our radio, which is a little Maxon SD171 or an SD174 radio for VHF or UHF conventional operations, and decode your tones that way. We have accessory cables that aren't necessarily listed on our website, but we do have accessory cables for this that will allow you to, for example, we have a lot of departments that come to us for their alerting needs because they get dispatched on VHF conventional, but all their operations are on P25, and they don't simulcast the tones on their P25 system. So if they want to hear the call, they have to have something that decodes the tones, but something else that listens to P25. And that's not a problem with this. So if this unit here, you can have your conventional radio connected here, or our SD171 or 174 series radio connected here. That's always monitoring for tones on the conventional VHF or UHF frequency. You can plug your P25 radio into the audio channel using this accessory cable port here. And what happens is when this thing's in monitor mode, if you want to put it in monitor mode, it would always monitor your P25 radio. But when there was an alert on VHF, it would do all your activations. So your lights would come on, your bell would ring, it would play an announcement, play an audio file, alert tone over your speaker system. And as soon as that alert tone is done playing, you can tell it to either listen to the dispatch on VHF, or you can tell it to go back and turn the P25 on. It's completely programmable. So with that being said, you also have the ability to do voice detection on your accessory input or on the radio input. So if you use a system that uses, say you want to hook up like an iPad that has like your CAD program or something on it that plays an audio snippet whenever there's an alert for your pre-alert system, you could run that into the audio channel on here, and you can set this up. There's a jumper inside that allows you to choose the accessory port as your audio detect, and then you can tell it whenever it detects audio on this port, or whenever it detects audio on this port or this port, that it would do a set routine. So you could do like a pre-alert tone saying heads up, or fire call, or whatever the case may be for that pre-alert. The other benefit you get with audio detect is if you get dispatched on a particular talk group and you have a radio that only monitors that talk group, for example, a scanner is a good example, that only monitors a talk group that you're dispatched on, you could have a scanner connected to this, and whenever there's traffic on that talk group, it would activate the alert system like a dispatch. Now, obviously, scanner is not always going to be the most reliable for public safety. You may want to dedicate a radio. If you dedicate a radio, then you can use the carrier detect, which is kind of a signal the radio sends out whenever it receives like a voice data on a channel. We can use carrier detect. That's what the COR here is, the COR. We can detect carrier on a channel, and it could activate based on carrier. It could activate based on audio detect. There's a lot of functionality here. The other options that you have are the 4 inputs. So there's input 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. And these are for buttons, for activating the system manually, for hooking up additional pagers. So you get dispatched by 4 different counties or 4 different jurisdictions on 4 different frequencies. I know it sounds crazy in 2024, but that happens a lot, especially in the rural communities. You could have 4 different pagers connected to this, going to 4 different inputs. And whenever a pager activated, you could actually set it up so that it would turn the audio on for that pager using the outputs, because it's a lot to talk about in this quick video, which isn't really that quick. We're at 14 minutes now, but you could hook up 4 or 5 pagers of this thing and have it go off for different counties. It's you just have to put your mind to it. If you can think it up, we can usually make this controller do it. So as you can see, just to talk about the light some, we talked about the audio detect and the carrier detect. The PTT is actually a mislabel. It really should say like PA, but we're going to get that fixed when we get some new cases made here this year. And the T1 and T2, this is your tone detect. So when it starts to decode the first tone, you'll get the red light would come on. And then when it starts to decode the second tone, that's a match, then the red light would come on, and then usually we have it set for 0.3 seconds for an activation. So 0.3 of a first tone and 0.3 of a second tone is all you need for an activation, even if it's a 1 second, 3 second tone set. Then DV, this is for DTMF. So this is just saying that there is a signal match for DTMF. And then the pager is if there's the relay closure on the pager activates, that would trigger the pager. Then you have your 4 inputs we were talking about over here. So like I said, it is USB programmable. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to flip her around so you can see the output, or the outputs, I should say. And you can see there's 9 terminals here. 8 of these are outputs, everything in between the white line here. So these are all your outputs. This one here is an input. This is your power input. So if you had, this can handle up to 12 amps at 12 volts DC. And there's 8 5-amp relays that are pre-configured to provide 12 volts out when they're activated. And they are fused at 5 amps. There's 8 fuses in there just to protect the relays. So we provide you with a 5-amp power supply for this unit. And that's all this is really rated for. I think it's rated for like 7 amps. But just to be safe, we do 5 amps on this input here. If you needed 10 or 12 amps of power, you would have to use like a radio power supply, like a 12 volt 15 amp power supply or something like that. You could run it into these screw terminals here and power it that way. Your outputs here are going to be, like I said, 12 volts by default, but they are configurable. They can be dry contacts. They can be switched ground. So NO is the positive side when it's in 12 volt mode, and 1 is always ground. Unless it's in dry contact mode, then it's normally open and common. So that being said, this is the SA951. It is very programmable for your needs, and we are on track to sell our 100th unit within the next week. And these are doing great. So I hope that this has brought some understanding to the different controllers. You know, from the pager activated controllers, this does not have a tone decoder in it, so it's getting its signal from the pager 100% of the time, or a button. And then, you know, the tone decoder and station alert controller all in one here, which is our best unit for station alerting, in my opinion, because of its flexibility, its expandability, and its future-proofed. You know, because you can do P25 call alert activation, you can do 2-tone, DTMF single tone, you can do the input triggers. You can hook this into your CAD system. If you have some way to get a trigger out of your CAD, you could hook that trigger into one of the inputs and get pre-alerts from your CAD system, all from one box. So I hope that this answered a lot of questions, because we do get a lot of calls trying to explain the different units, and I think I think this video should answer most of them. There are some other videos on our YouTube channel that explain other things in reference to this unit, how you program it, the different settings and jumper position, stuff like that. And there's also some videos on the SA812. We don't have a lot of videos on the home alert. It's a very basic unit. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then, of course, our newest unit, which is available for purchase now, I said I would talk about, is the Command Alert 3. And, you know, we call this the Command Alert controller. Technically, it is the Command Alert 3. So what this guy does is it interfaces into a public safety radio, be it a Kenwood, Harris, Motorola, EF Johnson, whatever the case may be. As long as you have the ability to externally trigger the push-to-talk and externally connect mic audio into your radio, this can be interfaced into it. It does have a micro SD card slot, which it will come preloaded with a micro SD card with several audio files. And then it's also a tone encoder and DTMF encoder. So you can actually set each one of these buttons up to do a specific task. And it's not set to just one thing. You could have it do a 2-tone set, a voice message, and then play a DTMF string. You could have it do 2 or 3 different DTMF strings. You can have it do 2, 3, 4 different sets of tones, single long tones or 2-tone. You can have it play several audio files. You can tell it to pause, repeat. You can have it cycle audio files. You can do high-low. You can do steady. You can do beeping. It has the channel marker alert, which is a big thing. A lot of command officials and police agencies look for when there's a signal 13, which is an officer in distress, or a 10-3 on the channel for emergency. They want people to know not to transmit that are coming onto that channel fresh. You know, you can hold 2 buttons down, and what that does, it activates whatever tone you program into it, any hertz, you know, from 500 hertz or whatever to 1400 hertz. You could say a half a second beep or a 1 second beep every 10 seconds or every 15 seconds. And it could do that for a set amount of time. It has some timeout timers and stuff like that. And then, you know, you can press these 2 buttons here, would cancel everything. You can also, with this, you can either have each individual button be an activation point, or you can require that this button be pressed and held to engage. That way you can't have a false activation if you accidentally come down here and just touch something real fast. You would have to press and hold this, then press that to get your evacuation tone, or you'd have to press this, press and hold that, and press that to get your Mayday tone, or whatever tones you have programmed into 1, 2, and 3. Like I said, it's completely programmable. This unit is USB programmable, so you can program it with the same software the SA951 actually uses. So it's pretty straightforward. I hope this video is informative to the people interested in our products. I tried to touch on a lot of the stuff that that people call about and email us about. So I look forward to answering any questions. Please feel free to leave comments down below, and we'll answer them as soon as possible. You can always call us at the shop too. So thanks for watching this, and I hope this has been helpful in your decisions to purchase some of our equipment. You have a good rest of your day.